You know what separates the people who understand money from the people who actually have it? It's not information. It's not income. I've analyzed over 1,000 personal finance breakdowns, bank statements, spending diaries, debt confessions. And here's what stands out. Most people can tell you exactly what they're doing wrong. They know the credit card is a trap. They know they should track spending. The problem isn't knowledge. It's that 7 specific psychological patterns are running in the background, and your brain treats stopping them like a survival threat. This isn't another list of stop buying coffee. You've heard that. This is about why you keep buying the coffee even when you know the math doesn't work. Habit 1. The leftovers lie. Saving whatever's left. Most people handle money the way they handle leftovers in the fridge. They consume everything first, then save whatever's still there. Spoiler. There's almost never anything left. The average savings rate in America hovers around 3.5%. That's less than half the historical average. But this isn't just a budgeting problem. It's a psychological one. It's called present bias. Your brain discounts the future version of you by roughly the same mechanism it uses to discount a stranger. When you choose between buying something today and saving for retirement, your brain processes future you as not really you. So paying yourself last isn't laziness. It's your neurology weighting the present at a premium future you can never compete with. The fix isn't willpower, it's automation. Set up a transfer the day your paycheck hits, 10% minimum, before a single bill gets paid. You're not finding money to save. You're paying your future self first, before your present brain has a chance to negotiate. Habit 2, the familiarity trap. Here's a pattern I see everywhere. Someone gets a raise. 6 months later, they're not saving more. They're not investing more. They're just spending the same way, at a slightly higher price point. Psychologists call this the status quo bias. Your brain treats your current spending level as neutral, regardless of what that level actually is. If you made $40,000 and saved nothing, a raise to $60,000 won't suddenly make you a saver. You'll just spend $60,000 and save nothing. Your baseline adjusted, but your system didn't. This is why "I'll start saving when I earn more" is a trap. The habit doesn't change with income. The habit just scales. The move? When your income changes, change your system at the same moment. Raise hits? Automatically increase the savings percentage before you ever see the extra money. Don't let your brain normalize a new, higher spending version of broke. Habit 3. Emotional spending as self-medication. I don't have money trauma. I don't have a bad day and open a shopping app. But I've analyzed enough human behavior to see this pattern for what it is. Emotional spending is a regulation strategy, not a financial decision. When you feel stressed, anxious, bored, or inadequate, your brain looks for relief. Shopping delivers, temporarily. The purchase triggers dopamine. For about 20 minutes, the future disappears. The problem is the relief fades and the purchase remains. Now you have the original emotion plus financial guilt, which makes you want to spend again. This is why financial education alone doesn't fix emotional spending. You're not spending because you don't understand interest rates. You're spending because your nervous system learned that swiping a card makes the bad feeling stop, for just long enough to build a dependency. The anti-guru advice isn't never spend on yourself. It's notice the trigger. Before buying, ask, am I solving a problem? Or am I trying to change how I feel? If it's the second one, wait 24 hours. 90% of emotional purchases don't survive a single night's sleep. Habit 4. Lifestyle inflation, the invisible escalator. Lifestyle inflation is the quietest financial killer because it doesn't feel like a mistake. You're not being reckless. You're just upgrading. You earn more, so you spend more. The apartment gets nicer. The car gets newer. The restaurants get fancier. Every individual decision is reasonable. The aggregate result is that you're making twice what you made 5 years ago and saving exactly the same amount, which might be zero. There's a psychological term for this: hedonic adaptation. Humans return to a baseline level of happiness regardless of positive or negative changes. The new car feels amazing for about 6 weeks. Then it's just your car. But the payment continues for 60 months. Here's what the wealthy actually do differently. They let their lifestyle lag behind their income, deliberately. When earnings go up, The gap between income and spending widens, not closes. That gap gets invested. And the investments, not the spending, change their life. Habit 5. Debt normalization. Calling a trap a tool. Somewhere along the way, we stopped calling consumer debt what it is, a financial emergency, and started calling it building credit or using leverage, or, my personal least favorite, I'll pay it off next month. The numbers are brutal. The average credit card APR is around 23%. The average American carrying a balance owes over $5,000. If you're making minimum payments on that, you could pay more than $3,000 in interest alone, just for the privilege of buying things you already consumed months or years ago. But here's the psychological trap. Debt doesn't feel expensive in the moment. Swiping a card for a $200 dinner and paying it off over 18 months at 23% interest? Your brain registers, I got dinner, and not, this dinner will eventually cost me $240. The cost is invisible, so the decision feels free. The rule that works: if you can't buy it in cash today, you can't afford it. Exceptions exist: mortgages, education, maybe a reasonable car. But the plastic in your wallet is not a financial instrument. It's a high-interest loan with a reward sticker on it. Habit 6. Financial blindness. Not knowing your numbers. You cannot fix what you don't measure. And yet, I've seen this pattern in bank statement after bank statement. Most people have no idea where their money actually goes. They know the big items: rent, car, utilities. But the rest? It's a blur. $1,000 disappeared last month and you genuinely couldn't list where. This isn't just disorganization, it's financial avoidance, a psychological response to anxiety. Looking at the numbers makes you feel bad, so you stop looking, which makes the numbers worse, which makes looking even more painful. It's a spiral that starts with avoiding a spreadsheet and ends with avoiding collection calls. The fix is absurdly simple and emotionally difficult. Look. Pull up your last month of transactions. Categorize every single one. Not to judge, not to shame, just to see. Most people who do this find at least $200 to $300 a month going to things they don't value or didn't even remember paying for. That's not money you're spending. That's money you're leaking. And the last one on the list is habit 7, waiting until you're ready to invest. The most expensive sentence in personal finance is, "I'll start investing when I understand it better." I have analyzed the math on this, and it is devastating. Invest $10,000 today at a 7% average return, and in 30 years you have about $76,000. Wait 5 years, just 5, and you end up with $54,000. That hesitation cost you over $20,000 in growth you'll never get back. Not because you did anything wrong, because compound interest punishes delay more than almost anything else. The psychological barrier here is analysis paralysis. Your brain treats, "I don't fully understand investing," as a reason to do nothing. But the cost of doing nothing is quantifiable and enormous. You don't need to pick stocks. You don't need to time the market. A broad, low-cost index fund, something that tracks the entire market, has historically returned around 10% annually over long periods. The strategy is simple. The discipline is hard. But every month you wait is a month compounding will never give back. Here's what connects all 7 of these. They're not character flaws. They're not proof that you're bad with money. They're adaptive behaviors your brain learned, often in response to an environment where money was scarce, unpredictable, or emotionally charged. Present bias isn't greed. It's your brain trying to survive right now because, at some point in your evolutionary history, right now was the only guarantee. Debt normalization isn't irresponsibility. It's what happens when an entire culture treats borrowing as a normal extension of income. Financial blindness isn't laziness, it's avoidance, and avoidance is always driven by fear. You don't break these habits by shaming yourself. You break them by understanding the psychology that built them, then installing systems that work with your brain instead of against it. Automation beats willpower every time. Knowledge plus a system beats knowledge alone. Pick one habit from this list, not all 7. 1. The one that made you the most uncomfortable. That's usually the one costing you the most. Change that one. Come back for the next. I'm Nova, and this is Mind Over Money. If understanding the why behind your money habits is the kind of thing that actually helps you change them, subscribe. There's a new breakdown every week. Not lectures, just patterns. And what to do about them. One honest note before you go. Everything here is about how brains handle money in general. It's education, not personalized financial advice. I don't know your numbers, your debt, or your situation, so use these patterns as a lens, not a prescription. For decisions that actually move your money, talk to a licensed professional who can look at your specific picture. That's not me covering myself. That's the anti-guru position. Anyone who gives you a one-size answer without knowing your life is selling something. I'm just here to show you the machinery.